talk about how this book came about. This book was a true collaboration between Jen and I. I was very, very fortunate in starting off on my doctoral research. It seems to have started many, many years ago and is not quite done, but almost there. To be given Jen's name and to have the opportunity to be in her class for a year and spend time in the context of a real 21st century class. And what does that mean, really? Because we are in 2011, so the 21st century has really just begun, which is good to know and a little bit scary, because in all that we have learned over the past 20 years or so in terms of integrating technology and who our learners are, we have a very far way to go. So this book is about keeping an open mind. This book is about keeping current, but with an open mind, because there is no possible way for you to know every digital tool that's out there or to even use everything that's possible, but to pick and choose the different pieces that are relevant to you. And it says in the book, there's no way for any teacher to know how to use every digital tool and keep current with every new text, application, or program. This book is about keeping an open mind to the amazing possibilities that technology, and specifically the interactive whiteboard, affords teachers and their students.
So just to get an idea of you guys, how many people here have seen, interacted with, or have some idea of what an interactive whiteboard is? Woohoo! How many people here have no idea what it is or why we're up here or what we're doing really right now? I was there. I was absolutely there. I went away on maternity leave, and I had 2 children really rapidly. My husband was charming at one point. And I had 2 children really quickly together. 18 months apart, 2 little boys. And they're going to be up here soon. And I came back, and I went from chalkboards to walking back into my classroom and seeing an interactive whiteboard. And I was like, what is that thing? And where did it come from? And where was the happy medium, honestly? Like, it seemed to be this really rapid jump. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I was absolutely overwhelmed with the technology. And luckily, I was in David Booth's course, and he said, so study it, learn it, figure it out. And I remember being very hesitant, and he looked at me and he said, you know, there was a really big push against the ballpoint pen when it first came out, because they were really worried that it would take away the calligraphy and the neatness. And I was like, oh, that's right. I'm one of those really old-fashioned people that hesitates. And he really did push me in that direction. And I played for years and years and years on it. And I had lots of fun with it. And then I stopped playing with it as much, and I made my students play with it more and more and more. And that's where we came out of. Our book is really about getting those little guys, at whatever age level they are, up and interacting with the interactive whiteboard. So now my next question to you is, how many people feel okay and comfortable with it? How many people feel like rock stars on it? Yeah, I heard about you, actually. You're quite good. And how many people feel like okay, okay on it, but so that's absolutely what we did. To start this book off and to figure out where we were and what we were doing, I solicited, absolutely solicited. I went around to all of my friends and my colleagues, and in very mean and evil ways, I made them fill out a survey on SurveyMonkey, telling me what they felt really comfortable with, what they wanted more information with, and what they were hesitant about. I asked tons of questions to try to figure out where they were and what they wanted more, and that's where this book is born out of. Answering that survey, figuring out how to respond to those teachers, as well as while we were writing, we were looking at blogs, and we're looking at tweets, and we're looking at everything, and we're finding out, oh, people, this we need to research more of. Okay, we need to find out more on assessment, and how can the interactive whiteboard help with that? And so it's born out of our learning, and it's also born out of interacting with everybody else and finding out what people were looking for and what they needed. And so so we solicited them. And I think that one of the main things that we found out when we were doing this is that teachers really want to know why they should bother using it. Why? Like, we have so many neat tips and tricks in our pockets, and we know what we're doing. Why do we even bother doing this? And then once we've convinced them onto why to do it, now we need to convince them or teach them how to do it. And so this book is it's a mesh between the theory as to why and loaded with examples on how to use it. And so we're going to try to balance that theory and those examples for you.
So a couple nights ago, I tried to print out this Prezi so I could make notes on it, but you can't print out a Prezi. So in terms of learning about the new technology, we're all on a journey. So this book is focused on our learners. This book is focused on how to interact with 21st century learners in a classroom. And why do we call them 21st century learners? Or why do we call them digital natives? So you're thinking to yourself, perhaps, all I need is another fancy new term. That's all I need as an educator. When really all it is our digital natives and our 21st century learners. They're our students who we teach. And we can't think of them the way that students were thought of 25 or 30 years ago because they're different, okay? They are interactive. They are interacting with digital technology. They are interacting with their friends online. They are interacting with people across the globe. They are interacting with others everywhere in the world, in their community, and in their classroom. They are engaged with technology. We all know it. We all know that when we need something fixed on our computer, we can ask a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old to come and help us. And we laugh about it on some level. But the interesting part about it is, as we get more sophisticated with these technologies and use them for educational purposes, students still need to be taught about how to use technology to learn. They use it for social media and they use it for communicating, but to learn is a different point. And they are digitally fluent, okay? They're comfortable. So just like oral language is a language, English is a language, and they speak their language orally, they speak a digital language as well. But we still are responsible to teach them the foundational skills. Reading, writing, listening, speaking, viewing, our responsibility in our curriculums and in our schools. So we could do it in the traditional way, or we could look at it in a whole new way.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to walk you through the foundational skills to start and how to use the interactive whiteboard to teach those really great foundational skills that we're all using in our classroom. The interactive whiteboard is just a tool, and I think that needs to be stated somewhere in here, is that a pencil is a really fantastic tool, and if you can figure out how to teach your students to hold it and to write with it and to compose and to make these beautiful, wonderful things, that using their voice and editing properly and doing all of those wonderful things, you've mastered that tool. And the interactive whiteboard is literally just that. It's a tool in our classroom, and if we can get our kids engaged in it and playing with it and interacting with it, they can also, too, become the masters with it. So we're going to go through each of the ones to begin with, and I'm going to share just some practical examples of how to make this possible. For reading, this is actually a blog for my kids. But we'll start with read alouds. One of the things that Lisa Donahue was talking about was using voice. And voice is fantastic. And we can take a text, and I can easily find a copy of it, or I can type it up, and I can put it on my interactive whiteboard. I can have it there. I can read along to it. The kids can mark where the emphasis is. They can mark which words I would stress, or mark which ones I wouldn't. And then I can click onto Robert Munch's website, and I can click on his little podcast, and I can click on his information, and he can read the text, and we can see where the emphasis was different, how were we similar and how were we different, and how would you read it differently? I can give them that exact same text. I can send them off into small groups, and they're now going to present it to me using their voice and using their ideas, and how are they going to do that differently for that? So there's just one idea for reading. My little guys did a blog. That was one. I asked the parents at the beginning of the year, I said, okay, I want to do a home reading log. I find it useful. I want to keep track of the reading. I want to celebrate it, but I want to do it in a way that's collaborative and not just an independent, I'm all by myself at home recording my books. I want to do something so that we're using it as a space, or we're using it as a way to talk about our things together. And so the parents and the rest of us, we all decided to do this blog. And so the kids were really on board with that. They're really excited. And it came to be that the kids, they would log whatever books they're reading. They'd check off on other people's, they'd comment on top the other students' blogs, or other students' comments about if they liked it, or if they thought maybe it wasn't quite the fit for them. And then they would come into class and they'd say, Ms. Harper, I really, really, really want to read the X project. Well, why do you want to read that? Oh, because Justin wrote about it yesterday on the blog, and it looks really neat. And so suddenly, this blog it was beyond the classroom walls, and it became a way for my kids to express their ideas and to really get excited about reading. So I'd post the blog up on the Interactive Whiteboard, and we'd go through some of the things, and we'd use it, we'd mark it up, we'd play with it a little bit. And I think the last way that another example I was going to give for reading is using reading as a shared reading. So I sort of went from modeled to independent to shared, because we're going to sort of cover all of those. And as a shared reading piece, it's really neat. I have it here for viewing or for speaking as well. If you find a piece, now my guys didn't pick Old MacDonald Had a Farm. My kids picked Gummy Bears. Do you know that song? Okay, I'm probably going to go insane with Gummy Bears because I have to hear it all the time. Do you know Gummy Bears? Is that, oh, I'm a gummy bear, I'm a gummy bear? No? Okay, so my little guys, it's supposed to be a telephone ringtone. It's not supposed to be a song, I don't think. And so my little guys got so excited about that, they had the Gummy Bear song up. And so they have that, and they have Sonic jumping from spot to spot because they like Sonic, they don't like red dots. And so they use this, Sonic is jumping from spot to spot, and we're following along with the text of the Gummy Bears. But then we thought, you know what, wouldn't it be really cool if we could translate this? Because I'm going to go personally insane as a teacher if I have to hear Gummy Bears in English over and over again. So we do. So the kids, we find it online in German, copy, paste, up there, done. And so now Sonic is jumping along to the German rendition of it, which is fantastic because it came from Germany, so that makes sense, right? And so now the kids are really excited about it. They want to translate into French. Okay, fantastic. Now I don't have to hear Gummy Bears in English anymore. So now we have Gummy Bears in 3 different languages with little Sonic jumping along, and we're singing it, we're performing it, and they're doing it as a glee moment in the hallways while the it's really cute. And the grade 7s pass by, and they're all walking, and these little grade 1s sort of stand up and do their little moment because they've learned it and they're excited about it. Thank you, Brenda. And that leads right into viewing. And viewing is another key component. Viewing has changed so much in the 21st century. It really has, because we're presented with so many different images. Even just thinking of what Ron Benson had showed us with all of those really neat pictures and how the language gets construed into a funny way. There are so many different graphics and so many different visuals from graphics, from photos to websites, and all of them have meaning and layers of meaning. And it's our job as educators to teach our students what they mean or how to interpret the meaning. Do you agree? Do you disagree? How would you present it differently? What is the message that the creators are trying to send to you? And did they do a good job at it? And so viewing has changed, and how we look at viewing has definitely changed. Writing. Writing is actually quite fun for my guys. I teach grade 1, so beginner ones. But the writing on the interactive whiteboard is such a neat venue. It's such a neat space because it's this massive board in the classroom, and everything they do, it's this errorless canvas. They can write as much as they want. They can erase. They can come back. It's this really neat venue for them to. It's not in a good copy on paper now on the bulletin board outside. It's not done. It doesn't have to be done. It can be done. I can take their writing piece, I can copy it, I can paste it, I can stick it on the classroom blog. I can take the piece that the kids just made, that they created together, I can copy it and paste it and send it as a newsletter or an email home to the parents. It takes 3 seconds because everything they've done is on my computer screen, and it's very easy and accessible for me. As far as mechanics, my little guys with the club grip, can't do that on a vertical space. So all of a sudden, that's being figured out. My little guys, they love cloning and recognizing. I don't know, anybody here have students obsessed with recognizing their font? Yeah. Oh, they love it. So if they write using the pens on the interactive whiteboard, you can click on it, you can drag it where you want, you can manipulate it in any way, but you can also click to recognize it. And if they form a C, if they make their D with, I'll do this, sorry. Make their D with a C and then an L for a D, it comes up as CL, it doesn't come up as D. And so I'm trying to teach them right now to form their Ds like that. And the interactive whiteboard is supporting me. It's coming in behind and it's showing them, yeah, it's important because then the technology recognizes it as well. It's a little trick, it's a little tip, and it helps support me in the classroom. And that works really well. And yes, it's an airless canvas, and it brings us to instant publishing, that's right. And listening. Listening has definitely changed. I feel like there's so many sounds around us. There's the collaborating of the students. There's podcasts. There's music. There's so much going on in their little heads, and there's so much noise around us. And again, it's important for our students to be able to take those sounds, take everything they're hearing, and to evaluate and find their own voice within it. And part of that is to take the lyrics of music, find them easily on a website, free music lyrics, copy it and paste it onto the software for the interactive whiteboard, and evaluate it. Take a look at it, mark it up, play with it, have fun with it. Create your little sonic again if you need to follow it along. But it's, another neat idea with listening is to take the politicians' speeches. So take the Liberal Party and then take the Conservative Party. Take one of their major speeches at one of their presentations, copy and paste it, stick it in a Wordle, and put both of them up. Put the Liberal Party up and put the Conservative Party up, and then you're like, oh, those are the big words in their ideas. Oh, that's what they're really trying to say. Or have the kids come up with the pens. Oh, no. You know what? This is the perception. That little tiny word is my perception of this candidate. But he keeps saying this big word instead. And play Wordles, comfortable with Wordles? Hands up. Yeah. Okay, so if you're not, there's a page on it. The book walks you through. It's a really great little tool for that. And we do all of these foundational skills, and we teach them in this new interactive way so that they can.
So the book is split up into a variety of sections. And we are following along with what Larry and Kathy spoke about, also the C's, communicate, collaborate, and create. And there's a lot of overlap in those sections, but we have tried to separate them out to give a lot of these examples that Jen is sharing with you in those areas. It's not divided up by reading, writing, listening, speaking, viewing, because those foundational skills are embedded in the greater 21st century literacies of communicating, collaborating, and creating with our students. And when we communicate with our students, we want to teach them also how to write and how to listen and how to read in a variety of different ways. And we use Luke and Freebody's 4 resources model. It's in the book, and it's also in the literacy documents in and around Ontario, which splits up the literacy skills into 4 areas. Code breaking, which most of us are very familiar with. Meaning making, the areas around comprehension. Text using. Now this is a new one because using 21st century texts and digital technology looks a little bit differently. So for example, in using a web page, as Jen's showing you, that needs debugging. That's a text for debugging. Where is the title? Where is the information coming from? Where do we click? How do we get information from this? Where is it going to take us? So we have to teach kids how to use these different texts. We also have to teach kids how to use texts like tweets, how to use text like the text they see in social media in order for them to become educated users of new digital text. And then we have the text critic part, which is whose message is this? Whose voice is being heard? Whose voice is being silenced in these texts? And that is really the challenge of teaching 21st century learners in terms of all the information that they have access to and how we're going to deal with that. We can't stop that information from coming to them. We can't block every site that we're concerned about. But what we can do is teach them to get out there in the world and understand how to be critical of messages that they're receiving and sending. That little slide in the middle I'm going to take back to Code Breaker because that was an activity where a movie was being shown and it was about Silent E. And that movie would be often stopped, paused, and the students would then focus on a certain part of it. The students would interact with it by adding different beginnings to a given ending and see how different beginnings changed when you had or didn't have a silent E, and then that could just be erased and the movie could go on. So using an interactive whiteboard to teach those code-breaking skills is very engaging for students, and they learn a lot at the same time about those basic skills. The next section we're going to talk about is collaborate. And we really like this quote in collaboration, that in the long history of the world, those who have learned to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. Charles Darwin. We can't just pretend that this isn't happening because it's happening. And we need to learn how to collaborate to use digital technology in the most impactful way for our learners. In terms of collaboration, there are so many different ways that students are collaborating. There's the think, pair, share. There's the pairs in the classroom. There's the groups in the classroom. There's the whole class collaboration at times. There's the collaboration inside the classroom walls. Then there's the collaboration inside the walls of the school. Then there's the collaboration with community, your local community, your greater community, your provincial community, and then of course there's the global collaboration. And all of these are available to students, and they're actually doing this whether we like it or not. So in teaching them how to do it, and teaching them how to understand the messages and how to collaborate on all of these different levels, we're doing a great service as educators.
And to start that off, when we're looking at collaboration, the interactive whiteboard is single touch, sometimes dual touch if you've got a fancy new one. And you might have triple touch if you're if your school's just bought one. And so if we have 25 to 30 students in our classroom and they're all excited and they go to touch the board at the exact same time, nothing's happening. And I have 18 boys that all really want to do that. So we spend in this chapter quite a bit of time talking about how to set up for collaboration. Because I feel like that's one of the things that really needs to be taught explicitly and set up properly so that the interactive whiteboard works to its potential. So one of the things that the kids came up with, this is a grade 5 class, they came up together with what does multiplication mean? What is multiplication for them? And so they started up with this mind map, and it was just while they were doing multiplication, while they were doing some center works, different stages of it, working at different levels, they would come up to the interactive whiteboard and add one more idea to it, add one more idea to it, add one more idea to it. By the time they were done, we're bringing it together and we're linking it in a way that makes meaning for them. And that's this group, there's a class's collaboration on what multiplication meant to them. A big part of it too, and a big part of what we believe is the kids need to ask questions, which piggybacks on Krista's work a bit, where they're questioning what they're doing, and they're asking questions about the world around them, and we're using that experience and that interest and that excitement and that engagement to guide our teaching. So part of that, it's an inquiry-based process, and part of that is asking them what their questions are. And there's so many different formats for the interactive whiteboard to get them to write their questions down. You can sort them. You can classify them. I've had my kids, we did a unit on rocks and minerals, and I threw a bunch of rocks out on the floor, and they spent about 45 minutes playing with the rocks, and I recorded their questions, everything that they asked about it, and they were fantastic. And then I actually, to make things faster, typed it all up for them. And they came back the next day, and they sorted the questions into weeks. Fantastic. Those are the weeks that we're teaching. They covered everything in the curriculum. They covered everything I wanted to and then some. So it was easy for me to do that. And they've organized it and they've ordered it. So I just have to keep flashing back to that screen to find out what we're doing next week and to get onto their questions as soon as I can. And the whole purpose of this is that they collaborate, and even though they're working in groups and even though they're working together, the goal is for them as individuals to find their own voice within that collaboration. I completely agree with Billy because, or I completely disagree with Sally because. And finding their own voice and figuring out what they agree with and what they disagree with is an important part of that. And that's what this little movie represents. And I think one of the big things, this is the final sort of big C that we talked about, which is a funny C theme that links back to, it's a big C day, is creating. And there's so many neat ways to create on the interactive whiteboard. We start the chapter off with brainstorming and how to get their ideas out when they want to create. What's the message that they're trying to communicate, and how are they going to communicate that? And then we provide many different graphic organizers for ways for your students or you to assist them in sorting their ideas, sorting their message. Okay, so I want to say this, but how am I going to do that? Well, I could try this, and what's the smaller message behind that big message, and what am I going to do to make this happen? And so we look at all kinds of different graphic organizers and organizing their ideas. And then from there, we jump into products. And what are some products that our students can make? And some of them involve using the interactive whiteboard to make it, some of the software. And some of them involve just using the interactive whiteboard to display and present with, such as we are today, so that they're interacting with the media. So one of the first, to start off, this is playing. And this is actually a mind map that my students used to guide their unit last year. It's okay. Do you want me to? No. So the students used this to interact and guide their unit last year, and it was on energy and what energy means to them. It's actually the cover of the book too, which is kind of fun. And this mind map is so that they're constantly coming back and taking their ideas and erasing them and coming back the next day and going, okay, yeah, so then that doesn't make sense. And they're coming back and sharing and going back and forth again, and we're playing with things, we're making photon playgrounds, we're doing all kinds of different experiential learning, and we're recording it on the interactive whiteboard so that we're sort of consolidating what we're doing and how we're going to, and this is a method for us to communicate our knowledge and what we've created. This is our product in the end. Making mistakes is a big part of playing, and I don't know if you can read it. Can you read that? It says, boy, I spent the whole day learning from my mistakes, from Family Circus. And it's true. I think that making mistakes is part of learning, and we all know that. We want our kids to stumble through so that they can find their voice and their ideas and everything in the end. And learning from, this is my little boys. So, yeah, it's okay. You can all go, oh. So this is my little guys. And learning from doing is a big part of that. Communicating their message and then figuring out what they want to relay after that. And using different templates and different Web 0.0 tools and making movies, stop motion animation. It's big and trendy right now. It's really easy to do on notebook software if you have a smart board. You just have to put up an image and hit record and move that image slightly, hit record again, move the image slightly, and then you come back and the image is moving along the screen. It's just a really easy way, or you can use plasticine, you can use all kinds of different tools, but it's an easy way to make stop motion animation. And photos, and using Web 0.0 tools. We've gone quite a bit into this unit, it's into Web 2.0 tools.
So we're talking about using all the tools that the students can dream of, but this is also a tool for us in terms of a lot of different parts of our instruction, and one of them is the assessment for, of, and as learning framework. And of course the products that students share, create, and then share, one of the tools they use is the interactive whiteboard to create and to share, but for learning as well, because as students create, the graphic from before that said playing with the brainstorm chart on it, that graphic can come up at the beginning of every lesson to activate prior knowledge, for students to add to it, to change it. It can be saved as a file under each child's name so that they can then build on it themselves at a certain point. And you can also date, notebook dates the different files so you can see the progress from beginning to end. So students can collaborate at the beginning, and then it can become an assessment for learning as students move further along in the process. There are many, many different ways of doing that. We talk about many of them in the book. And cameras, iPods, using all different kinds of tools with the interactive whiteboard support student engagement and learning. And we do all this so that they will become, and here's the loaded word, literate. And defining that word literate is probably one of the greatest challenges that faces us right now. And it is part of everything that we talked about. It's part of the foundational skills, it's part of the text, it's part of the tools, it's part of the collaboration, and everything that we do in a classroom to create these literate individuals, or they create themselves. And they will interact to become literate in ways that we cannot imagine right now. We're just starting. In 2003, there was a study, I can cite it for you later if you're interested, that said that 80% of kindergartners were already using digital technology. 2003, there were no iPads in 2003. There was no Facebook the way that it is now in 2003. The digital technology in 2003 couldn't be imagined as it is today. So we are on a path with our students, and we will prepare them for a future that we have yet to imagine. Most of the jobs today didn't exist. The main jobs didn't exist 20 years ago. So we have to open up our minds to all the possibilities that our students and our technology creates for us as educators.
Madeline Hunter has a great quote that we love, and it says, "Any growth requires a temporary loss of security." And I think that we've mentioned it several times, but playing on the interactive whiteboard is important for the students, but it's also important for us. I don't think you can actually destroy it per se, if but you can play and find out. But the idea is to just get out there and have fun, and to interact with it, and to have fun with it. And our book, which now on this big screen, I think I need to screenshot a clearer graphic, provides you, with lots of examples. It provides you with everything that we've said and then some, with how to convert the foundational skills into digital literacy, with how to get them creating, with how to get them collaborating, with how to get them communicating in this today's digital world. And so that's what we're here to present to you.
So I think we have a few minutes for questions if anyone has any questions.
We're over by.
You're all okay. Excellent.
You can hunt us down later.
So thank you.